Hello, and welcome to Principles of Microeconomics. This is Module 2.2a, and today we're going to introduce the concepts of price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply. So let's get started. So first of all, when we think about changes in the demand curve or changes in the supply curve, there are two types of changes that can occur. Remember that we can have a movement along the demand curve or a movement along the supply curve, or we can have shifts in either the demand or the supply curve. When we will be calculating price elasticity, we will be trying to calculate the movement along either the demand curve or the supply curve in response to a price change. So if you take a look at the price elasticity of demand, as you can see here, what we have observed is a shift in the supply curve from S1 to S2. The corresponding movement in equilibrium has been from equilibrium A to equilibrium B. So the shift in the supply curve has caused a decrease in the price and an increase in the equilibrium quantity. What we have also observed is as we move to the new equilibrium, you can see the movement along the demand curve. So the price elasticity of demand is going to calculate exactly how much does quantity demanded change when we have a change in the price of a good. Next, when we think about the price elasticity of supply, again, here we want to calculate the movement along the supply curve, the change in the quantity supplied over the change in the price. So in this example, we see that we have moved from D1, demand 1, to D2, demand 2. The response in the market for goods and services is an increase in the price and an increase in quantity as we move from equilibrium A to equilibrium B. Along the supply curve, we see a movement along the supply in response to this price change. So the price elasticity of supply is going to calculate by how much does quantity supplied change when we have a corresponding change in the price and a movement along the supply curve. So how do we calculate this? Well, to calculate elasticity, we use something called the midpoint method. And what we are interested in calculating here is the change in the quantity over the change in the price. So the change in the quantity, as you can see here, is going to be QB minus QA divided by QB plus QA divided by 2. That will be our numerator. Our denominator is going to be the change in the price. So price B minus price A divided by price B plus price A divided by 2. So this is going to tell us by how much does quantity change when we have the change in the price. We will use the same formula for price elasticity of demand as well as price elasticity of supply. So we take the change in the quantity and divided by the change in the price. And that will give us the price elasticity of demand or the price elasticity of supply. So now let's look at a few examples of what these curves look like. With elastic demand, we see that the demand curve is relatively flat. So what this tells us is for any small change in the price, we have a much larger change in quantity. So the change in the price is going to be smaller than the total change in quantity for elastic demand. Some examples of elastic demand include luxury goods, such as designer jeans, as well as gourmet foods, such as cheese that you would buy for $15 a pound. These goods are not necessary. So any small changes in the price are going to result in large changes in quantity demanded. On the other hand, if we look at inelastic demand, here any change in the price is going to result in a smaller change in quantity demanded. So the change in the price is going to be greater than the corresponding change in quantity demanded. These goods are usually necessary goods, such as food and medicine, where it doesn't really matter by how much the price changes, you still need to consume these goods, so therefore you're still going to demand almost the same amount. Now, in terms of elasticity of supply, relatively elastic supply, again, is going to be shown as a relatively flat supply curve, as you can see here. Any change in the price is going to correspond to an even larger change in quantity supplied. So the change in the price is going to be smaller than the change in quantity. Here you can think of a firm that is not operating quite at capacity. If the price of the good they are producing increases, the firm is going to want to produce much more of the good. In elastic supply, we can see that a small change or any change in the price corresponds to a very small change in quantity supplied, so that the change in the price is going to be greater than the change in the quantity supplied. So these are goods where it's difficult for the producer to change the total quantity that they are producing simply because the price has changed. In the next series of videos, we're going to go through some examples and calculate price elasticity of demand and price elasticity of supply. Thank you so much for joining me in Module 2.2a.